Hey everyone, welcome back to my Union Pacific, somewhere west of Laramie subdivision. In this section, I'm going to be taking a look at wiring, and mainly just like the bus and feeders and how I do that. There's plenty of resources available of ways to do this, but maybe from watching this video, you can pick up a trick or two to help you make wiring your layout easier. So start just with a piece of Code 83 Atlas Flex Track here. And I've already gone ahead and removed some of the ties from the ends as well as this part in the middle where these purple marks are, and those are going to be where our drop feeders go from the rail down to the main bus wire. So here we're at the module where we're going to be installing this piece of track, and I've got everything already kind of pre-cut and lined up. And here is, I'll zoom in, I have two feeders on each section, so this is the first set of feeders that I've already had. And this is where our second set that we're going to be showing is going to go. And you can see our marks line up to the pre-drilled holes already. So yeah, we just got to run the wires down through the layout to the main bus wiring. Move this piece of cut track here. And then let me try, sorry it's hard with one hand while I'm filming, but at least these modules are light. I'm going to flip it over and show you the underside here. Alright, so yeah, this is where our the previously done already wired in feeders are. They're hanging out waiting for the bus wire attachment. And if you go to the right, this is the drop feeders we're going to be doing today. That's the pre-drilled holes for them. Oh, sorry, let me flip the module back over here. And to pre-drill these holes, because it's kind of a thick base with a 2-inch foam and 2 layers of cork and plywood, I found this long drill bit at Home Depot, and I can't even remember the exact size, but it's about 10 to 12 inches long, I would say here. So there's no problem going through all of my bench work and scenery and everything here. And I kind of use that just as a pre-drill hole, just to get everything straight and a hole through there. And then I come back with this bigger bit right here, and this just makes it a world of difference feeding the feeders actually through this hole, because it's kind of a pain in the butt. So you feed them through with this bigger one. And so now we're back at my little workbench area and got my piece of track flipped over. And the first thing I want to do to get these feeders soldered on is I take this scrap of 2000 grit pretty fine sandpaper, and where our marks are, I'm going to go ahead and rough it up just a little bit, just to give the solder something to stick to and make sure I have good electrical contact through the rail. And this will rub off the points that you made earlier, but that's why I made them all the way around, because you can easily remark it. But yeah, nothing too fancy, just a little scuff on there just to give it something. Go ahead and remark it so I know where my feeder drop is. And then just come back and do the same thing to the other rail. And that should be about good. Doesn't really take too much, just a little extra grit for it to grab onto. Then I'll just go ahead and remark my mark on the bottom here with the Sharpie. Perfect. Now we should be ready to get some wire. And for the feeders, I'd want to go with a smaller wire. So I just got this 20 gauge stranded wire actually I got it from O'Reilly's Auto Parts. And they sold it in 100-foot roll, so I just grabbed a couple feet of it while I was there. But I go ahead and take about a 6-inch section, and it's kind of overkill because with all the bench work and everything together, it's really only about 2 1/4 inch. But I've learned from the past experiences it's better to have more of this feeder wire than less. Otherwise, you have to tear everything up and go ahead and rewire it. So I do about 6 inches, and that seems to be plenty enough where I have extra if I mess up or need to cut some off or something like that. So I take 2 strands here, and I'll cut 2 strands out to 6 inches here. Alright, let me take one of these and go ahead and strip the end of the wire off and don't do too much. Maybe about 1/4 of an inch off the end of each one. Strip that off there. Oops. And there goes my camera. Sorry about that. And then we'll just go ahead and grab the second wire and do the same thing. Take about 1/4 off of there. Strip that off. And the ends that we're stripping will actually be the ones that we solder to the track here. And then the next step that I do is you can use pliers as well, but I just take the tip of my fingernail and just bend a little section of that end to a 90-degree. So it has good track connection, then it'll come down and run through the layout. We'll go ahead and do that to the second one as well. And it'll go ahead and sit flush with the track now, and then drop straight down to the bus wire. But let's get these things soldered on. And I won't go too into depth about soldering because there's already a lot of information out there, both on the internet, books, and YouTube. But I use a pretty basic setup, honestly. I just use a pretty cheap, I think it's $20 soldering iron from Home Depot. It's not temperature controlled, which is a downside. That's something I'm looking forward to possibly getting in the future. We'll see how that goes, but it's a little outside of my financial price right now. So yeah, I just use that cheap soldering iron from Home Depot, and then just a little roll of solder here. And then just a flux, actually, from Home Depot as well. And I found the flux, it actually comes in like a needle tip dispenser on the end of it. And that seems to kind of help the control of it. Yeah, mainly you just want to get both surfaces pretty warm. And you'll know it. It's the only way you can really learn soldering is just to do it. So if you haven't really soldered yet, I'd suggest just buying a cheap one like this and just trying to solder a couple pieces of wire to a random rail, just a scrap piece of rail, just to practice it, because it's something that you get better with each one. I'm by no means a master at soldering, but I feel like I'm improving with each one that I do here. So, all right, we got this first feeder, enough solder on there and everything now, and I think I've got it heated well. Just heat it up one more time here, and that's just kind of to straighten the feeder out, just to get it as close to a 90-degree, I guess, as you can to go down through the hole. Take a little more of my solder here. Alright, let that cool for a second, but that should be it for the first one. Then I'll come back and do the second feeder wire here as well. There we go, and it's always kind of you can see there, I released it with my one hand, and I use the soldering iron kind of as a second hand there, and just kind of pin the wire against the rail so I can grab the solder with the other hand and start melting it into place. Alright, hold it still and let it cool for a sec here. And I think that's about going to do it for the second feeder wire here. Just let it cool off here for half a second. Yeah, we got both of our feeder lines hooked up to this piece of flex truck now. So yeah, the next step is just going to be to take it back over to our module and run the feeders down through the layout to where our bus wires will be. So now we're back on the module, and we've got our flex truck that we just soldered those feeders on in place. And now obviously you're going to feed them through the holes down through the layout. And this is where it really helps having a bigger diameter hole. Last time I built a layout, I didn't have much bigger of a diameter than the feeder, and it was a struggle, man, feeding these feeder lines through the plywood and everything. So this time I wanted to make sure that I made it nice and easy on myself, and yeah, kind of bored out bigger holes. It still gets caught up kind of in there with the styrofoam just the way it is, but usually if you pull it out and straighten it back once or twice, you can, there it goes. Yeah, you'll feel it feed through. And yeah, once you got it feeded through, it'll push through, and it kind of drags the track into place and sets it there. So there we go. That's what we're looking for. So yeah, we've got our piece of track in place pretty much now. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the feeders there. And the next kind of section, I will flip the layout over and kind of show you how I wire up the bus wires, and also how I connect those into the feeders. And just to show you one last time here, I'll flip the layout over, and these are our feeders coming through the pre-drilled holes we got, so you can see there's a nice extra distance on there. This will just be kind of part one, so make a secondary part 2 video here on the mainly focusing on the bus wires and connectors and how I do that. So stay tuned for the second part of this video. Thanks for watching.